Most autistic people have special interests. Some have multiple. Whether it's trains, the Titanic, Minecraft, or Star Trek, a special interest is a topic any given autistic person is obsessed with. We can rattle off fun facts about it, spend hours of our day researching or experiencing it, spend exorbitant sums of time, effort, or money on merch of it, and love it more dearly than most other things in our lives. Some of us go into fields related to our special interests, meet our lifelong partners or friends because of our special interests, or start channels on YouTube so we never have to shut the fuck up about our special interests. Fundamentally, though, surrounded by the knowledge or image of our special interests, autistic people feel safe. All that is to say, it's time to hear me talk about The Sims 4. Life is abstract, confusing, and difficult to conceptualize, and autistic people and The Sims combat that in an incredibly similar way. Rules. We both try to fit rule systems, categories around that abstractness, and find those systems and our understandings of them necessary to function. It's just that for a coded game like The Sims, it literally needs these rules to function. All code does. But because The Sims creates code to mirror the abstractness of human life, rather than, say, brushstroke noise or ore placements, I find myself relating very heavily to its frame of the world. So I want to explore the rules The Sims needs to make and how they relate to the rules I see in life as an autistic person. In this video, I'm specifically looking at The Sims 4, although most of what I'm talking about here can be extrapolated onto any Sims game, and probably a lot of non-Sims games for that matter. What interests me is the innate need for a life sim game to quantify something as abstract and widespread as human life, how to categorize the uncategorizable. It's one of the things I love most about The Sims as an autistic person. The way my brain works lines up with this mode of thinking, and it's genuinely helped me understand neurotypical communication and the greater life cycles of family and community as a whole. So let's talk about The Sims, the rule sets it creates, and how its philosophies can reflect back to us so much about our own social and material lives. And while a lot of what I'm discussing here is the framework of the actual code of The Sims, I can barely make a choose-your-own-adventure game in Python, so we're looking at this in a thought experiment way, not an actual coding experiment way. All games rely on gameplay loops, and The Sims 4 utilizes an incredible variety of them that also interact with one another. Not only do they depend on whatever given situation you're playing, plant, water, harvest, sell, date, try for baby, kid, get a job, do your tasks, get promoted, they depend on the preferences of the player. How do you work through situations in your own life? How do you get stuff done? Progressively or in big chunks with procrastination in between? And do your Sims reflect that when doing homework, job tasks, or upping their skills? Skills are the backbone of The Sims. They allow Sims to learn, create new things, succeed in careers, and can be integral to overall functioning. And basically all skills see exponential growth as you increase in level. The more objects you can create or find, and the more variety within these objects. The more social interactions you can take related to said skills, and the ways these actions build on one another. Sims can mentor other Sims to help them improve skills faster once they've reached a certain level. And the ways a Sim interacts with objects related to said skill improve over time as well. For creative skills, you can create different types of paintings, songs, or books at improving qualities. And there are skill trees for occults that have certain branches related to different skills. But the most important, or highly branchable skills, are gardening, cooking, and handiness. In order to truly take care of a garden, you need all the sub-skills within the levels of gardening. First, learning to water, plant, and harvest. Then, being able to weed or spray for bugs. After that, fertilizing, grafting, and splicing. And things that make the game more efficient, like being able to weed or harvest massive chunks at one time. The more crops you harvest, the more you can use them within cooking recipes, and those recipes build and get more complex over time. And handiness skill is the unspoken hero of the game. Being level 10 in handiness allows you to not only repair all broken objects, but upgrade them in a variety of genuinely helpful ways, like the massage controls on beds that make sleep quicker and easier. But you can learn to construct furniture on the woodworking table, and open up the mine shaft that leads to the Forgotten Grotto. exponentiality is important in a lot of different loops, within skills, relationships, or financially. I feel like the world of The Sims 4 is a capitalist utopia. We can say that, right? And so the exponential growth of money is something to count on. The better you do at your job, you're promoted. The more you're promoted, the more money you make. And the more money you make, the more you can do with it. This is one of the places the systems of The Sims make it less realistic. Life is so much more complex than this ladder. What about people who don't want to be promoted, or wouldn't be good at the job a level higher than their current one? Underprivileged or marginalized people who aren't given the same opportunities to go up the ladder. Some industries don't even have a ladder this cut and dry. And of course, there's no importance placed on networking or social capital in the job market like in real life. At least in The Sims 2, you have to search the newspaper for available jobs, because actually finding a job can be half the battle sometimes. And Discover University gives your Sims a leg up in careers related to their degree. But these days, that barely matters in real life either. As we discuss more of the game, a lot of genuinely insightful notions about life come from the simplifying of abstractness to gamify it. But it's enlightening in a different way, EA's adherence to an imaginatively functional capitalist world. Better pay, better schedules, and more perks come from hard work and hard work only. And when it comes to things like skills, relationships, and money, each incremental change can be seen by the player. Whereas some exponential changes are hidden from us, which brings a little magic back in my opinion. One of my favorite examples of hidden exponentiality in The Sims is the environmental change in Sulani. Throughout your time on the island, you can do things like clean up trash in the ocean, beachcomb for trash, show poachers and polluters the ills of their ways, send endangered fish back after catching them, and a lot more when working from home in the conservationist career. But you can't see how much these actions help, or how close you are to the next of Moa Palam's evolutionary stages. You just help out when you can. And after a while, the ecosystem is permanently changed for the better. More wildlife returns to the sea, like the elusive albino dolphins, trees and bushes are lush, and every once in a while, there's a turtle hatching event, where your Sims can watch the baby turtles make their way into the ocean. There's something really hopeful about these incremental changes to me in the face of climate change doomerism. Like in Sulani, we have no way to tally our individual actions when it comes to sustainability day to day, but that doesn't mean we're not making a change. The game is counting it up, and so is the Earth. The other hidden changes I love in The Sims relate to the exponentiality of the infant skill system. I know I'm in the minority when it comes to Sim babies, but I genuinely can't get enough of them. And thanks to MC Control Center, you can make your infant's life stages a little longer so it's easier to hit all their milestones. Like with real babies, you can see their base level and how each action builds to learning another action. A baby can't crawl until they've conquered tummy time, can't eat in a high chair before they sit up, can't learn their first words before they learn to babble or laugh. It's also cool, like real babies, to see a Sim baby figure out something on their own, but only after having worked at it with their caregivers, like randomly starting to play with the toys on their playmat after a parent had showed them previously. Similar to adult Sims, the same actions can change shape as an infant Sim progresses, from looking at toys to playing with them on their back to playing with them sitting up, for example. Having infants in the game makes long lifespan Sims so much more whole, in my opinion. It's cool to see how these skills progress from life stage to life stage, the baseline milestones of an infant which affect the core skills of a toddler, that morph into the evolved core skills of a child, and onwards to individual skills that could start in the child stage of life and progress onwards to elder. I love collecting virtually and physically, and I love that there's always something new to collect, and that to complete a collection, you need luck and skill both. Sometimes literal skills so Sims can do things to get particular objects. And while there are certainly some collections that follow a more rigid quest-based system, like some tarot cards or the fucking Star Wars shit, in general, I like being able to give myself those guidelines within the parameters each situation gives you. With collections based around skills like gardening or fishing, leveling up unlocks new options to find fish or cultivate plants. Fishing with bait, doing that pondering thing, and how there are a lot of garden items you can only get by grafting and splicing one plant with another. That improvement in skill comes with general knowledge too. like knowing the recipes different fruits or vegetables go into, or knowing the best spots to find rare items throughout normal worlds and within secret worlds. Side note, because most collections are now pack-specific, I really appreciate how they're tied to place. Beachcombing versus tarot intuition versus bugs. The sounds and stings that come with them get to be unique to the object and the place. Like I said before, a lot of these loops are present in other games, but for me, seeing them in The Sims is indicative of how important those repeating systems in our own lives are, how they interact and help us change and improve. And I've found that's given these loops in my own life a new type of importance. That autistic capacity of gamifying life came back into play, and I take better stock of how the incremental changes in my skills increase exponentially, as well as learning to appreciate the routines of domesticity under a romanticized gaming lens, seeing how the simple interactions of a clean house or a dinner together makes a home a safer, more stable place, and to relish in that. One of my favorite conceptual factors about The Sims is seeing the ways communication is simplified or streamlined without intelligible language. Sometimes it makes more sense to see the building blocks of a conversation as these more vague topics, discuss interests, tell a funny story, deep conversation, than to think of each individual topic and response. It's a way to reduce communication into a series of social scripts, and you can see the way different conversations could or should happen by the social menu items that pop up first in any given conversation. For example, you or your sim is at a bar and you want to flirt with someone. You might introduce yourself in a flirty way, make a joke, flirt some more, try to get to know them, and compliment their appearance. Or if you or your sim wants to start a fight with someone, you might argue, imply their mother is a llama, and jeer until you tussle. Your relationship with someone affects the things you might say to them too. And the social menu shows that through the recommended dialogue options when you click on one sim or another. A sim's first option with a partner is to flirt, a coworker is to ask how their day is, an enemy to argue. And when it comes to enemies and arguing, I want to go on a quick tangent. I know I'm not the only person that took a really long time before using any negative social interactions in The Sims, and I still have a pretty hard time doing it. Why is that? Personally, I feel like naming bad behaviors makes it harder to do them. Most of the time when people are rude, they aren't aware of how their actions are coming off. But the vague prompts The Sims give us mean it's not the words we say, but the intent behind it that is the dialogue. Every time you're being rude, you're intentional in doing so. And as an autistic, I find it's much easier to retain the conceptual knowledge of these social scripts than to actually replicate them in real life. Sure, I know I'm supposed to flirt, or tell a joke, or ask a question, but what does that actually mean when you get down to it word for word? But watching interactions of these concepts take place over and over in a variety of situations solidifies the path to getting there and transitioning somewhere else. In general, there are a lot of social rules, truths, or lessons you can see more easily within the data-oriented relationships of The Sims. How first impressions are important, but they aren't everything. And context is important. You may not be coming off bad, but instead the other person could be having a bad time. And being able to see a Sim's mood to know if they're tense, angry, or sad is helpful. How important proximity is to relationships. Family, neighbors, work, clubs, and the ways that just being in a club slowly brings your relationships up with all the members. How shared experience generally means more than traits. A Sim's social need can be filled slowly by their family, just as well as quickly somewhere crowded. And you can become friends with people slowly or quickly, talking about superficial or important things, and become just as close. Spending lots of time with one Sim makes them want to spend more time with you, and you with them, asking to hang out, come over, go on dates. But you can still be deeply connected with someone and maintain that connection even if you aren't around each other for a long time. Still, relationships change in an instant. Become close forever, break a close bond instantly, turn romantic after being friends for years, friends after being acquaintances, etc. Quickly connecting over something mutually enjoyable brings a relationship up. Quickly doing something bad can bring a relationship down. But being a good friend is showing up, being there, and doing it again and again. It's those moments that matter most rather than the normal stuff. I love the grief system, that Sims cycle through grief. Sad emotions can hit randomly and go away randomly, or with concerted effort to feel better. based on the Sim's grief type. Sometimes things like counseling or the sadness hotline will help, sometimes they don't. Sims can even regress if they don't grieve properly and change traits. And grief still shows up long after a Sim has died, even in positive ways like remembering happy memories. Funerals and cemeteries actually work, and I love being able to chart the life of a town through the stories on its gravestones. And the reincarnation and bucket list system is one of my favorite features of any pack, being able to see what my Sim values in life based on their choices of bucket list items. And being able to know they can come back in a ludonarratively consonant way is comforting. Although reincarnating a Sim is kinda cosmically horrifying in an uncanny way, but that's a whole other can of worms. To stay alive, though, you need to eat. And The Sims goes to show how important our base needs are. The needs system highlights a hierarchy within needs. Food is more important than sleep, is more important than hygiene, is more important than fun. But some needs in yellow and some in red give you freedom to take care of a Sim's needs within a different hierarchy. Sometimes I'll think of my own physiological needs within this system, and take care of my yellow needs before my red, so that when I eat or sleep, I don't have to worry about anything else. I think we all use our phones a little much these days, myself included, and The Sims, knowingly or not, reflects our gravitation towards electronics, which legitimately makes me think back on my own experiences. How often do I pull my phone out while talking? While on a walk, come home and immediately hop on my computer? And how come I scoff when my Sims do the same? There are a few other little life lessons like that come from The Sims for me. How trying to force the moments you want can suck the fun out of life. And the best times are when you're totally going with the flow, and that takes you somewhere great. And overall, how important it is to buy into things if you want to get the most out of them. Imagination, performance, sometimes masking is the key to have a good time, and that doesn't make an experience less authentic. And I discussed it previously when it came to skills, but The Sims places an importance on childhood and pre-childhood in a way that reflects life. It shapes everything: how we act, think, what we do, what we prioritize, how we socialize, as well as the importance of childhood memories, childhood media, childhood places, and childhood bonds as Sims grow into adulthood and beyond. I love seeing friend groups develop and grow together, who sticks with whom, how they change as teens and adults, and being able to see their kids and how that cycle continues. It genuinely teaches you how a community forms within a town from generation to generation, from new year to new year. How have groups changed? Families grown? Who's no longer with us? You also see how generational wealth affects a family after gaining it exponentially. My rags to riches family busted their asses as teens and young adults, and now they're so rich one of their kids has never had a job. Those kids got to be kids for longer because of the life they were afforded. Also, I have nowhere else to put it, but look at how much they make a week through investments. Like, that's criminal. And it's not like I haven't participated in real-life communities, locally, online, and within identity groups, but the unique perspective The Sims offers is an omniscient perspective, a bird's-eye view that you can zero in on within, see broader scopes of life and more intimate ones, all over a grand scheme of time. I know what my local band scene is like right now, how New York City looks in the 21st century, or what my family is like with me in it. But I can play through the life of a Sim after playing through the life of their grandparents, see which lots in their world became mainstays, which families prevail from generation to generation. As an only child, one of my favorite things about playing with families in The Sims is being able to see sibling dynamics over a long span of time. More than seeing cousins or friends and siblings interact, it helped me chart the course of a relationship from moment to moment, and life stage to life stage intimately. Preferences in parents, preferences in one another throughout different life stages, the ways your siblings' friends become your friends, how age matters less into adulthood, and fundamentally seeing the way siblings coexisted when being upset with one another. As a child, it was hard to fathom fighting with a sibling one minute and being buddy-buddy the next. but experiencing these moments through my Sims naturalizes them, which is one of the reasons I and many others love role-playing games as a whole. Literally stepping into someone else's shoes and seeing how they experience the minutiae of their life. Watching things accumulate within a family. Heirlooms, photos, what comes with families when they move, how things pile up over time and hold memories like real life. And that's true of exploring each world, finding the parts your Sims like, knowing where the best fishing spots are, where unique interactions take place, and the way you can feel a difference between a neighborhood your Sims have lived in and a neighborhood they haven't. Especially with the tool mod being able to create functional spots for camping, group activities, or even environmental storytelling adds to the lived-in nature of a world for me. Seeing a spot and knowing what memories my Sims have there. Also true of randomized townies or kids of Sims that become part of the canon of your world. This one Sim, Laurel, shows up in like every single one of my games, as well as Sim families I played years ago, like Honey or Cecilia, just around, living their lives without me. And it's interesting to see how much the Sims reflect back where I am in life. The more active I am, the more active my Sims are. The more I want to be outside, the more they are. When I play music, they play music. But when I draw, they draw. I can also chart out the change of my interests based on which characters from external media I put in my Sims game, which is doubly funny because you can see the progressions through their age. All my Sims from Lost are old and dying out right now. I got random Silent Hill Sims in the background, but Laura's an adult at this point. But I know what's most important to me based on the Sims I always put in. You'll never find a save of mine without a fully decked out TARDIS and tons of doctors and companions. The Roy family in a mansion, and Chloe Price and Rachel Amber living happily in Sim Arcadia Bay. There's a possibility in The Sims of creating queer families in a way modern science hasn't given us yet. 2 men or 2 women can have a child. Trans people can have a child in ways they biologically can't. Children can be created with only one parent, too. That's true of the ways trans people can explore a variety of gender options now. And for me, that looks like making my Sim cis. It may be controversial, but there's a comforting legitimacy to that. A peek into a world we may have one day, where queer families have no barriers to a life straight and cis people take for granted. But one of the things The Sims is basically negligible at is disability. And that's because most disabilities can't fit into the systems of The Sims. If Sims are created symmetrically, they can't have facial or limb differences. There are no wheelchairs. Every Sim has the abilities of sight, hearing, and speech. And while there are traits like erratic that have been noticeably changed over time from insane with the straitjacket, there's no way for Sims to have cognitive disabilities. Modders have fortunately created things like cleft lips, prosthetic arms and legs, and mods for deafness or autism, but it's disheartening. In a world where 1 in 6 people is disabled in some way, that experience can't be represented along with the many others of The Sims. Unrelated to socializing, there's still a lot of other ways The Sims need to categorize and facilitate the world around these communities. Knowingly and unknowingly, The Sims 4 defines its own set of semiotics. Like, the icons are such a particular example of this reduction of large abstract concepts into straightforward symbols of said concept. What is creativity? Friendship? Death? Play? And how does The Sims use our previous archetypal associations of these concepts to make icons as easy to understand as possible? Once I started to play a lot, I found myself asking questions like what constitutes a place, a room, the objects in that room. And that's an interesting thing that The Sims has to give answers to. Certain groupings of items name that place. Workout stuff and showers makes a gym. Art and an easel makes a museum. A bar, tables, chairs, and instruments make a lounge. That's true of the groupings of objects in buy mode. Bathroom means toilet, shower, sink. Study means desk, computer, skill items. Kitchen means counter, stove, fridge. And of course, these categories are incredibly variable and unbinding. A dress can be for every day, for a party, and for hot weather. I like community lots that are multifunctional, and I can manually change a lot from a library to a cafe, a lounge to a bar, a park to a national park. So the Sims that appear and actions they take depend on the situation. Sims will read more in a library, create more in a recreation center. And for some reason, parks are packed with Sims, but national parks end up being empty. It's interesting how within that, mods and custom content can confuse the systems initially coded into the Sims. Because they have no actual weight, they're just descriptors. Like, it may seem odd to see long-sleeve shirts or sweaters in the hot weather category, or expensive-seeming items priced at 1 simoleon. But that's because we're projecting our rational associations of the real world onto the code. The game doesn't know what weather is, or how simoleons convert to dollars. All it knows is the CC creator typed something in that it needs to repeat. This is true of a lot of gaming and computer-generated images. When it comes to our preconceived notions of the world, I love seeing the ways games can push worldly boundaries of physics, i.e. clipping, interacting with objects sized up or down, texturing items with photos from the real world. It's so odd and eerie, but fun to play around with, especially when you try to play Sims in a realistic way most of the time. But there's something major to be said about the absurdism of The Sims. And I really don't mean in the alien abduction, llama obsession, childish Grim Reaper way, but in the ways The Sims reflects back a morbid curiosity so many of us have. The infamous pool ladder, and the ways we work around that now that Sims won't die without a ladder, Hunger Games challenges, torturing political leaders, graphically violent or sexual mods. And The Sims world on YouTube is particularly privy to this type of insanity. Gray Still Plays and Call Me Kevin's Jim Pickens being my favorite examples of this. There's a need in gaming to push a work to its limits in a way no other medium can, as well as the fact that no medium generates as much original entertainment from it than games. And the fact that The Sims paints itself as a picture of comfy, albeit quirky family life, it's easy to distort and subvert that, and to use these systems to your advantage. Which is why so much content around The Sims forays into edgy humor, child abuse, cults, and torture simulators.
Every single time I've played The Sims on stream, an hour goes by and people start killing each other.
A major proponent of this type of Sims playthrough is Jim Pickens, the title character of hundreds of Call Me Kevin's videos. Jim has a knack for violence, financial scams, and child abuse, but what interests me the most is the way the game fuels his behavior. Kevin calls it the Jim Pickens curse. Jim constantly does insane things autonomously, and so do the people and environment around him.
I'll take a piece, but I'm still angry at you. And so is God. I was watching this series, I would think that I'm setting things up. Like, I tell Jim to go naked and tell him to come upstairs. But, like, I didn't. I didn't do that. He just showed up naked, and I don't know why.
Like, one time, Jim wanted to get this mansion in Del Sol Valley. So he kills the woman that lives there, makes her husband fall in love with him, moves in, and adopts kids with him, until he sees how little the guy makes as a musician. So he breaks up with him, leaving the kids. So the guy ends up killing himself. But because of how The Sims deals with death, the kids are moved out, and the house is unfurnished when Jim goes to move back in, thus foiling the plan and rearing the couple's death meaningless. And Gray Still Plays challenges do this on a larger sandbox scale. They create a setting, a group of characters, and the outlandish scenario they must face, and just let them all go. But narratives always form.
You can always tell when children are in charge of their own nutrition because their dinner consists of potato chips.
Like in the challenge where 25 kids are brought up in a mansion, and 25 kids bring themselves up in the backyard outside. The outdoor kids learn skills faster to fend for themselves, whereas the kids inside create nothing but chaos.
All of the kids that lived inside their whole lives, most of them have no skills. The kids that lived outside, they all have skills. Everyone out here is growing up to be decent human beings. This is not what I had in mind.
While chaotic autonomy and Call Me Kevin's videos is tied to character, Gray Still Plays uses sandbox parameters and the sheer quantity of Sims to find interesting narratives within the chaos. But in general, that chaotic autonomy exists in any Sims game. The weird townies wearing your CC or crazy makeup, the random deaths, and if a glitch isn't game-breaking, I love to see my perfect, cozy world of The Sims deteriorate and become something different when a glitch happens. I have to shout out one of my favorite ever moments of this happening I got on film. One of my Sims was just out in Newcrest collecting stuff, and had traveled to the lot with Bella's house from Twilight on it. Then, of course, a fire broke out in the house. but Anthony couldn't get in because he hadn't knocked before, and couldn't call the fire department. And you also can't travel off a lot or save during a fire. So he and the Twilight family waited outside for hours as the fire raged. Everyone peed themselves, one of their kids aged up, and one of their kids fucking died. I still think about it sometimes, like this could only happen based on the rules The Sims created. But this brings us to the inevitable downfall of The Sims for so many people. The bad loops. True of the never-ending laundry list of bugs that create new bugs whenever they're patched out. Some are frustrating, like the weather indoors bug or the lack of pregnancy tests for like a month, and others are game-breaking, like the For Rent safe corruption bug. And of course, the fact that anytime we get an update, mods are broken for months and the community is inevitably in shambles. It's insane that you can't play a game that you paid for long periods of time, regardless of the mods you have installed. Even when the game is working right or mod-free, we can see a lot of the ways EA cuts corners, from reusing animations, or even making features from PAX base game, the incredible lag in between actions, low poly assets, reused assets, and the lack of interactable features or hidden worlds in newer packs. EA's business strategy is geared towards a rule system that is fundamentally at arms with its player base. More packs with related features spread between them, so we have to shill out more to them. And more recently, we've seen a number of packs with game pack level content sold at an expansion pack level price.
I can't think of any reason that this is an expansion pack other than greed.
It's unfair, and no wonder we've seen such an uptick in shit after Will Wright left EA. If you're an Anadius girly, good on you, but if not, I say never buy a pack without a sale, and not unless you know you want it. Batu, I'm looking at you. I think I and many veteran sim players think fondly of the early days playing the game, when we didn't know all the secrets and didn't care about things looking perfect. And I know I can piss myself off sometimes by knowing and then using exploits that make things easier, but take away realism or challenge, like free real estate, cheat needs, or bringing home retail items you already sold to make Schrodinger's collectibles. That's where I try to let chance dictate my choices. And I've created rules and limitations for myself that open up gameplay in a way, create new challenges, and make things more lifelike. If a sim goes to a world that's never cold, Oasis Springs, Sulani, or San Sequoia for me, they have to stay for at least a day before they go back to a snowy world. With the tool mod, I've successfully had sims camp away from home for days on end, but they have to fish and forage for food to cook at campfires. When a sim makes a positive or negative exclamation in CAS, I let that dictate their outfit. And sometimes when a sim ages up and is wearing clothing more geared towards the other gender, I'll crack their egg in transom. In general, it's fun to see the narratives that pop up from Autonomy, how random sims doing the same things allows us to project personalities onto them, like the Jim Pickens curse I discussed previously, or how Patty Smith always helps my kid with his homework now because of course she does. A sweeter example of these autonomous narratives come from my sims Anthony and Amina. They were high school sweethearts and have been joined at the hip since. And when I got a mod that assigned sims a soulmate, Anthony and Amina autonomously decide they're each other's soulmates every few days, whereas other sims' marriages have been broken up by the mod. Plus, Anthony and Amina are the only sims of mine I've ever seen autonomously lightsaber duel, so I guess they're made for each other. The incredible thing is that everyone who plays The Sims has their own version of anything I've talked about here, autistic or not. I've read so many stories and seen so many videos of other simmers' intricate worlds, their lore, what weird sim became canon, what moment changed the course of their playthrough, what update broke their saves, and I love how much the Sims community shares about their worlds, and how much we share back, wanting to see more, becoming attached to other people's virtual families, challenges, relationships. Simmers can choose which features to prioritize or not. Moodlets, whims, active careers, likes and dislikes. If one frame makes more sense than another, focus on that and let the others blend into the screen. As well as the customizable qualities beyond build, buy, or cast. Which packs did you buy? Do you play with mods? Do you play with families, with messy single sims? Try to keep it real or make things insane? Do you keep things in game or take them outside? Like simmers who create family trees, write histories of their Sims or make videos with them. I'm far from content with the way EA has handled this game over time, and I'm getting more into The Sims 3 to see how these systems improve in an open world. But I can't help but love the time that I've spent with The Sims 4, and the ways its worldview has reframed or reciprocated mine. In The Sims, the player is the god of the world, and especially with cheats or MC Command Center, we can make everything function as we wish, down to time or death. In a forever changing and highly variable world, it's no wonder I and so many other autistics gravitate towards The Sims, to create a sandbox of life where we can find control. But while playing, there's still a constant area for improvement. New stuff, new skills, new relationships, new areas to explore, which is just like life. There's no end, it just is. It begins and ends all the time, and someone new will take your place when you go. Thank you so much for watching this video. I'd love to hear any stories from Simmers, autistic or not, about your favorite or craziest experience in-game, and if The Sims has sent you on as many philosophical journeys as it has for me. It was like stupid fun to shoot all of this footage in-game. I wish I had more to say about The Sims so I could do something like this again. Also, Succession folks, don't worry, the Kendall's Kids video is well on the way, and that and AG2 Part 2 should be out pretty soon. Let me know if you have any Sims related suggestions or otherwise in the comments. Leave a like and subscribe. You can even put that bell on to get a notification every time I post. And I'll see you next time.